My name's Brice Self. This is Breaking Into Banks Like a Boss. So let's get into it. All right. So again, my name is Brice Self. Last name is really Self. I was in the military, so I kind of have heard all the last name jokes. But if you got a new one, feel free to send it my way. But I'm sure I've heard it before. So that is my Twitter handle. If you want to check me out, I don't really have any friends up there, so I usually get like 1 or 2 followers, and I'll follow you back every time I do this talk. So it's fun. So that's 2 underscores there. All right. So I work with a great company called Rendition Infosec. I'm our lead physical penetration tester, and like I said, I was in the Navy for about 7 years, and then worked with some other organizations, three-letter organization, agency, something like that. And then when I'm not doing this stuff, I like to be outdoors quite a bit, camping, motorcycles, and then also breaking into your office. That's why I like physical stuff, because it's outside, not really necessarily in front of a screen, so it's cool. You get to be in front of people. All right, so real quick, Rendition Infosec. There's our Twitter handle up there. Can you guys see my mouse, or my pointer rather? Okay. Yeah. All right. Perfect. All right. So we do digital forensics and instant response. I used to do that. I still do every once in a while, but now some other guys have taken over. Are really focused on the physical piece. So yeah, we're the guys that come in whenever you have a business email compromise or a threat actor in your network or whatever. We come in and do that. We also do the red team stuff as well. Obviously, I do the physical side, but we also have our crazy guys on keyboards that are just phenomenal at hacking, and it's crazy what those guys do. Audit and assessment, training and education, staff mentoring. I also teach, and then we have Jake, Malware Jake. He's our founder, as well as Brandon McCrillis. They're really heavy into SANS. They're SANS instructors. SANS author. So pardon the dogs if they see a squirrel outside. So and then we also have a 24/7 SOC down in Augusta, Georgia, where we monitor clients' networks and all that good stuff. And yes, that is our ambulance. It's not Photoshop. That's real, and that's Hacky McHackface, and he's getting turned into a mobile CTF. So his debut is going to be, we're shooting for B-Sides Augusta. So if you're there, we're going to have that mobile CTF there. So that's going to be fun. All right. So what are we going to talk about? So we're going to talk about physical security penetration testing, why it's important, some of the common misconceptions that I have come across in my professional experience and career doing this, understanding the art. So I kind of broke down how I actually go about the way I get into buildings. Kind of broke that down. I'll talk about those different pieces, and then how to stop me, obviously, because this talk would be nothing if I just said, "Oh yeah, I got into your building, and sorry, that's it." If I don't give you, how I did it, right, and tell you how to stop it. So, all right. So Rob Joyce said it first, or said it best rather. Well-run networks make our job hard. There's so many organizations out there where they say, "Oh, we got that covered," or an adversary will never try that, or anything like that. And it's just the things that your organization isn't thinking about that we exploit. And threat actors are looking to exploit just those small small vulnerabilities rather, and they do it. So whenever we're doing our pen testing, it's great. Because whenever our job is hard, whenever my job is difficult to be able to get into your building, it says something, and it says something that you're doing actually a good job, right, with the security of your network, and then in my case, your physical security. All right, so how do you physical assessment? All right, so Webster's Dictionary, physical pen testing. If you don't know what it is, primary objective for a physical penetration test is to measure the strength of existing physical security controls and uncover their weaknesses before bad actors are able to discover them and exploit them. So we're talking about breaking and entering, right? It's how Brice can legally break into your building and steal stuff, whether it be data or servers or money or passwords or whatever it is. And I get to do that pretty much for fun and legally. right? So it's exactly like the network side, you know, the hackers or whatnot. I just do it the physical way, or get my guys are really good hackers. I get them in electronically. So, all right. So why is it important? So there's an old wives' tale. It capture the flag, right? CTF. So you'll have Team A and Team B, right? And they're both, you know, sitting there ready to go. And basically, the guy doing the CTF, he has a server right in the center of the room on this table, and he says, "Hey, listen, the objective of the CTF is to basically completely own the data of the server, everything on the data. Go ahead and own the data." Right, so that's their objective. So Team A just starts hacking away, right? So I'm sure there's some hackers in there. Any pen testers, hands on keyboard, any of those guys in there? In the room? Couple? Yeah. Good. So Team A starts hacking away, right? So I'm not a hacker, right? But you guys go ham on the ports and see what's open there, and see what you can exploit, right? So then Team B, they kind of just stand back and they just kind of look at the server sitting there on the table, and they say, well, they said we just have to own the data, right? We just have to own everything on that server. It's like, yeah, okay. So Team B walks over and they unplug the server from the table, and then they take it to their table. So now who has that data? Well, it's Team B, right? Team A can't connect to that server anymore, and Team B physically has that server. So because the CTF guys, they didn't think of locking it up physically, right? It's definitely a vulnerability, and if anything, I think it's the most overlooked. Field, or rather, what am I looking for here? The most overlooked piece of our field, right? Of our cybersecurity field. I think it's the most overlooked piece there, and so that's why I'm really passionate about it. That's why I love talking about it, is because I walk into buildings, and they've done everything they can on the network side to completely lock down. I mean, wireless, wired, internal, external, whatever it is, no lateral movement, no escalation of privileges, whatever it is, and then their interior doors of their offices won't shut properly, and then their front desk security is sleeping on the job, or whatever it is. People are just tailgating behind each other. So if that gives me access to that front door up to your elevators, and then all the way up to your servers or whatever it is, then what's the point of putting all that money and time and man hours and hiring people to secure your network if you're not going to secure it physically? So I think I beat that to death. All right, so let's go over some common misconceptions. So again, these are things that I've kind of heard, whether it be from clients or family members, whatever it is, and yeah. So the reason I built this talk was because kind of scouring the internet, I've heard people, and also kind of seen talks where they talk about all of like the really cool stuff. So picking into locks and bypassing doors, and all these really, really cool things. And that's all well and good, and that it definitely is a very important part of the physical security. But they usually just kind of skip to that really cool stuff, right? By just saying, oh, we just socially engineer them, and then we just kind of walked, just got in, and then we started, picking locks and doing all this really cool stuff. Well, it's like, okay, well, what did you do to actually social engineer them? How did you actually come about getting into that building? Which door did you go into? At what time? Who did you talk to? What did you look like? So all these things that I really wasn't hearing. So I was like, okay, well, let me build a talk in how I do it, right? So we're going to talk about a couple things there. So we're going to talk about reconnaissance and surveillance, and then some canaries of how I actually kind of actively probe the processes and policies of the building and the people within, and then it gives me enough information where I can kind of come up with a game plan to get inside. So. All right, so some other common misconceptions is, hey, Brice, like, you're not getting in. I had a client that was like, you're not getting in past the front desk. I mean, period. And I just want to let you know, for baseball fans, I'm actually batting 1,000, right? So I haven't came across a building that I haven't been able to get in. So yeah, so it's really fun whenever, you know, your client's like, oh yeah, Brice, you're not going to get past the front desk. And I say, okay, yeah, no problem. And then by the end of it, you know, I regroup with them and, you know, I say, oh yeah, check your cameras. And I was in your server room and I was in your CEO's office and all that stuff. And, you know, it's just mind blowing, right? And they're like, I don't understand. You know, we got lasers and, you know, security guards and alarm systems. And we got those like pressure sensitive pads and we know you're fat. So obviously you should have triggered those. You know, it's just not the case. So yeah. So that's how I did it. That's how that's actually a picture of me, and how that's Tom Cruise. So he's an actor, and yeah, so that's not me. All right, but I do get in, right? So I do get in. It doesn't look as cool as that, but I do get in, and they you know, sometimes they come up to me and say, you know, you must have had inside knowledge. There's no way you could have gotten in without someone telling you something or helping you out or whatever it is. And you know, I actually did break into your bank. All my clients give me is a physical address. So whether it's a skyscraper in Chicago or New York or Philadelphia, I mean, I've pretty much done this everywhere. In the rain, snow, hot, whatever it is. You know, they give me an address. I do a little Google searching, and then by the end of the week, I'm up in the building, and nobody's challenging me, and security is walking by and saying, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, great, I'm about to steal millions of dollars. And, you know, they just don't, well, they care obviously, but they just don't know. Right. So yeah, so, I mean, I was in front of a terminal, in front of an unlocked computer. Right. And I literally, all I had to do was put in how much money I wanted, and then my bank account information, and then I could have just transferred millions and millions into my account. So it's really fun, right? And it's really important, obviously, the physical piece.
What the hell are you doing sitting here?
So I usually get that question, right? And you know, I don't like jail. I don't like prison. I don't like handcuffs, right? Yeah, so I like my my life just you know, just doing something cool and feeling good about it, and then obviously not being locked up. So I get that question a lot, especially from my wife. She's like, I don't understand. Like, just take the money and like let's roll. Like let's roll. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. So all right. So yeah. So I kind of broke this down, right? So understanding the art. So this first piece, observation, right? So here is where basically first phase is OSINT, right? Where I go online, Google Maps, whatever it is, I start looking at how many floors, doors, alleyways, dumpsters, wherever they're at, wherever I can see online, right, before I get to the actual site. And then I do all that stuff when I actually get there, right? So I'll grab me a cup of coffee. I'll kind of scope out the place and kind of walk around. And it's really easy if you're downtown, and the skyscrapers there downtown. And I just pretty much start out just observing whatever I can, who's coming and going, what they look like, do they have badges, right? Badges are really, really good and important thing for me, where you know, I see what your badge actually looks like. Is it easy to replicate? Is it easy to copy, right? You know, I had one where I parked I was in their parking lot, and I was driving around, and there was no reason for me to be in that parking lot, mind you, unless you're going to work there. I mean, it was just kind of a obsolete building, right? There was nothing around, it's just woods and trees and whatever it is. And so everyone just is lax, and they just have their badge out whenever they're walking to their car. So I go ask for directions, and I am the dumbest person whenever I come across someone and I really want to look at their badge, right? And I mean, they're like, yeah, you know, you got to make 2 lefts and a right. And like you said, 4 lefts and 6 rights. And they're like, no, how are you not getting this? And I'm like, well, could you explain it to me again so I can just keep looking at your badge, because I really need to get it in my mind so I can, you know, make a fake one. And that's how I got into that building. So it was really, really easy for that, right? And really quick. So yeah, so deliveries, you know, is there a delivery dock? Is it open at a certain time because there's construction? I had that one time. Cleaners, you know, what are they wearing? Particular shirts? You know, are people coming in and out? Are they young? You know, most of the people coming into the company or into the building, are they young looking? Are they old looking? What times do they come in? Their race, all these different things, right? And then I just kind of take that all in, right? And to start crafting my plan there. All right. So I like to bring this up. So I put this picture here. Anybody recognize that picture at the bottom right here? Home Alone. Yes. So Home Alone, great movie. I can do spoilers because it's been out for like 25 years. So that's when Harry and Marv are in their van, and obviously it's plumbing and heating, but they're robbers. And you remember that scene? It's a great scene where Marv is talking to Harry is talking to Marv, and he says, "Hey, check this out." And they're in the neighborhood, and he's basically timing the lights as they're going in the neighborhood, right? Every time they come on, he goes, "It's going to come on now," and then the lights come on. So that's what he's doing. He's taking all this in, and he's getting that pattern of life. So it's really good. So I used Home Alone references, I think, one more time. I love this movie. So, all right. So second phase here is reconnaissance. Or recon. So this is where I get a little active here, right? I'm not actually trying to get into the building at this time, but I'm still kind of sitting back and kind of looking. But then I just start kind of probing a little bit, right? So I go dumpster diving at night, right? And I see if there's cameras out there. I see if there's actually someone that's monitoring. So how do I do that? I see if someone actually comes out. And they have before let's see, it was at nighttime, but then during the daytime they didn't, right? So I know, okay, no one's watching the cameras during the day. Just little things like that. So go into the building, maybe just try to bypass the security, see if they stop me. Again, we talked about the badges. And then, testing and the policies and procedures. So I love doing fake deliveries, right? So we will have basically come up with a fake form, 1-800-FLOWERS, whatever it is. And I'll go get some flowers or some chocolates at CVS, right, for a couple bucks. And then I have this fake work order form. It'll have an actual name from someone from the company that I found on LinkedIn. I usually choose a young lady, right, because they usually, they deserve flowers and chocolate, right? So I'll be doing two things there. So, well, actually a bunch of things. So going into the building, I actually look around in the building if I couldn't get in before. Now I actually have a reason to be in there. And then and I talk to front desk security, and I basically see how they handle an unexpected visitor, or if they know about if people usually deliver flowers or whatnot. So I'll see if they pull out a big binder, right? They'll pull out a big binder.
Hey.
So was there a question?
Did you check out the stuff?
Sorry, I didn't know if that was a question or not.
Don't touch it, David.
All right, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't make that out. So, all right. So yeah. So, does the front desk security, do they pull out a big binder? Does the binder have, that usually has the employees' names, right? Because they need to call up this employee. Or are their phone numbers, are they 4 digits? Are they 7 digits? Is it 10 digits, right? Based on that, I can say, okay, they're usually just desk numbers if it's 4 digits, or even 7 digits if 3 digits are usually about the same. If they have 10 digits, it might be a cell phone number, right? So I can see if they're actually using desk phones. So at that point, I can say, okay, well, if they only have their number during the day, that means I can kind of probably use that at night. So I'm not going to give away that just yet. But then if, maybe the young lady comes down and they say, hey, you got some flowers here. Why don't you come down? And she'll come down and she'll have a badge, right? So this is a great opportunity for me to get a signature from her. And she's like, well, who's this from? And we have this long conversation. And I get to look at her badge, right? Because maybe the company's really good about putting them away once they leave the building, but since we're in the lobby, it doesn't really matter, right? Maybe I can get close enough where I can actually clone it, like electronically, and be able to use that later. So it actually becomes important where all these people on LinkedIn, where they put their title and what they do at their company, especially someone that might have some accesses to servers or or anything like that. Maybe, you know, the 10th, 12th top floor or whatever it is. Maybe I don't randomly choose a person. I choose someone that would have a certain type of badge access that might be beneficial to me, right, or the threat actor, right? All right. So then the final prep is the last piece, and this is where we talk the talk and we walk the walk. Based on all the things that I've gathered up, we start putting a plan of attack together and get ready to go, right? So this is where usually I'll be coming in as AT&T, right? Hey, AT&T is their ISP, which we were able to call, and someone told us, right? And then we have this fake work order form that I drafted up, and it looks really good, and it actually has real names on there from people from the company, because I found that on LinkedIn, and someone that would actually approve something like that. And I basically say, hey, I'm AT&T. I have these cool AT&T badges, or a badge rather, and I look legit, and I'm coming in at night, right? And then I'm going to deliver this thing, right? So let's get into that. So the execution, right? So I'll go in and I'll have this awesome leather portfolio. It's really cool. I got it for $1 at a yard sale, but it makes me look really professional, by the way. And I'll have these work order forms in there. I walk in with my AT&T badge, and I'll come in at night because I know that they don't have the cell phone number of this particular person, the information security manager or whoever it is. And but his signature's on the work order form with a nice emailed memo that I drafted up myself, and it looks really good. And then basically it says, hey, front desk security, AT&T is here. Brice Self is here. He wants to he needs to get up to the 7th, 8th, whatever floor I want to. And by the way, you got to let him up because I signed off on it. And if you have a problem with this, just go ahead and call my number. So he leaves a cell phone number there, right? And I put that cell phone number in there, but it's not actually one I got off the internet. Who do you think that number actually goes to?
Mom.
Mom. Kick him out. Get him out of here. You're lucky I'm not there. No. So that number actually goes to another Rendition Infosec employee. So they'll call up that number and they'll say, oh, and this is where our other guy gets on his great acting skills and says, yep, that's we definitely need AT&T up there. Actually, if you can get him to any floor, he really needs to get up to the server room, really. And so if you just got like a badge, a contractor badge that can get him access to anywhere, or a security badge, whatever, just go ahead and give him that. He'll give it back to you in a couple hours. They'll be really quick. They're trying to get in and out before the morning rush, right? So that's why I'm coming in late. So it's great. So to execute, you just gotta basically sell yourself, right? You have to make sure you're outgoing and be able to talk to whoever, and also be agile, right? Because things happen and they don't go as planned. Sometimes easier for the better, or sometimes worse. So yeah. All right. So tools. So not all tools are technical. So that there's a thing that I use called a cover story, right? And there's two types. There's cover for action and cover for status. You guys ever heard of these? No. I know at least one person in there has, right? Because they've seen my talk. But so cover for status would be something where I make up a cover for myself, the whole reason I'm there, right? So I'm an AT&T employee. My name is actually Brice Self. I do have a North Carolina driver's license, but that's because I'm here for training. And we got this emergency call, and my boss said I gotta help you guys out, right? I gotta help this organization out. So that would be my cover for status, why I'm actually there. Now, my cover for action is a little bit different, and it's actually my little cover stories for every single action that I do, right? Because I have to do some nefarious stuff when I'm up in your building. I have to jimmy the lock, right? I have to pick the lock. I have to plug in USB sticks into computers that I'm not supposed to be touching, right? I'm up in the CEO's office and no one's supposed to be in there, right? So I have these little stories that I come up with before I actually do that action, right? If I'm plugging in a USB stick into your computer to get my guys to be able to hack in, one of the great things I do and I carry with me is just this little flashlight, right? So I take this little flashlight and I throw it up under the desk wherever I need to plug in something. And then I go up under there and I start doing whatever I got to do. Well, if someone comes and taps me on the shoulder and they're like, hey, man, what are you doing under my desk? I'm working like what are you doing? Or during the day. And basically, well, hey, man, I'm trying to find my flashlight. If I had a flashlight, I'd be able to find it a little bit quicker, right? So that's when I actually pick it up. But, in the meantime, I can do what I need to do. But I have a little story for why I'm actually doing that certain action. So support items. So like I said, I have this leather portfolio. It's really good. It makes me look really professional. A yellow vest and a hard hat will pretty much get you anywhere. Especially in a skyscraper in a city. A badge, my fake AT&T badge that I just got off the internet. Just found this awesome template and then just made it look legit. Is really great because people look at it and they go, oh, this guy's actually AT&T. There's no way that someone can create a fake badge, right? And then acting skills. So be a good liar. Be a great liar. My wife hates watching this talk because I talk about how good of a liar I am and all these crazy things I do, and she's like, "You're not like lying to me every day, are you?" I'm like, "No, babe, you look great." So be a great liar, right? Take some acting classes, some improv classes would really help you out with this if you actually want to do this. All right, so fun fact. So in 1969, scientists tested the Benjamin Franklin effect and found, yes, asking people for favors when used strategically is a tool to get them to like you more. So I love this slide and I like talking about it because it's actually true. So, I'll get into a building and basically I play the sympathy card, right? Hey, I don't want to be here either. It's 2 a.m. Look, I just got to get this work order done. They need me to get in and out in a couple hours before the morning rush. Can you just help me out, right? How was the football game tonight? Who won? It sucks I missed it. I had to, I've been working all night, right? Whatever it is. I had a maintenance guy. They called down a maintenance guy because they say, okay, we're going to let you up. Our maintenance guy has the badge, right? He has the badge to get you in everywhere because it was a great skyscraper in a big city, and they had these awesome elevators, right? And these elevators, basically, if you had a badge and you worked on floor 9, you had to scan your badge to access the elevator, and then you can only hit floor 9. You can't go anywhere else, right? So the maintenance guy, he has a badge to get in everywhere, right? So it's great because he comes up and goes, hey, man, how can I help you? Security said you're good. You just need to check out something on a floor. I'm like, yeah, I need to check out like these 3 floors. But actually, if we could just go to the server room, that would be really good. And he goes, okay. So we're walking. And as we're walking, he's like, hey, they say that this is actually, or he apologized. He said, I'm sorry, we're just kind of weird. We're just trying to stay secure. I'm like, oh, man, I get it. He's like, yeah, this is actually like one of the most secure buildings in Chicago. I'm like, no kidding. He's like, yeah. So he's like, I'm like, well, hey, how about that server room? He's like, yeah, all right, let's go. So it's great. So let's go into the server room. So yeah, you just got to ask people, for favors and they'll help you out. All right, so how to stop me. So we got to build some training policies, procedures, and make sure they're actively tested, make sure they're in place. You got to think outside the box. What would Brice actually do to be able to get into my building? What if I did try to put up a fake number? What if I did try to just walk past and tailgate? All these different things. So make sure there's something in place for kind of any situation. And it's best if you just want to put a blanket. Hey, if you don't know, call this specific number. It'll ring our actual security guy that knows what he's talking about, right? And then he can sort it out, right? So make sure there's those policies in place. Prevent tailgating. I don't care if you've known Joe for 30 years and you've worked next to him every single day. You sit next to him. He gives you M&Ms and donuts all the time or whatever it is. If he's coming behind you and he doesn't have a badge, or even if he does, slam the door in Joe's face and then make him badge in. And I'm sorry, Joe, but we don't know if Joe got let go the day before, right? And he's coming back to be an insider and cause malicious harm. He's a disgruntled employee, right? And then also, we get into buildings all the time just tailgating during the day. I have this girl on my team. She is super awesome. and she's like 4 foot nothing, right? And it's great because she can just tailgate so easily because she just gets behind someone of average height or taller or whatever, and she just can sneak right behind them, and security doesn't even see her, right? So, but these people see her, the people that are, she's clearly walking behind, just not security, and they don't say anything. And she doesn't have a badge, and you're supposed to have a badge, and nobody says anything. And she's up in there for hours, hitting every single floor, just going right behind people opening the door for her. Oh yeah, come on in, because she looks so innocent, right? And she's just stealing all your data and money. So, all right. So hide your badges. So we talked about that. I'd love to see badges out as an adversary, right? But I hate to see them as Brice from Rendition that wants to improve your company, right? So hide those badges. Make sure they're not out. Even in the lobby, there's skyscrapers downtown or whatever it is, and they share a Starbucks at the bottom floor with a couple other companies or whatever it is. There are people that are going to sit in that Starbucks, in that Dunkin' Donuts, like myself, and I'll sit and look at your badges all day, right? So make sure you hide them as you're coming down the elevator, whatever it is, right? Just make sure that people can't see them unless you're pretty much in your office, right? So validate all visitors with employees. If there is a visitor that's coming and says, oh yeah, I'm supposed to meet so-and-so, make sure that employee is actually physically there. Make sure you vet that employee. If you're security personnel, make sure they actually, make sure the employee is not fake either, right? And make sure they badge in. And then also over the phone, you can do multi-factor authentication, right? You can use Duo or something like that, and you can basically send something to their phone where it says, "Hey, hit the button on your phone. That way, I know you're actually that employee." And then they'll be able to respond. So unless I steal your phone and pretty much your badge, then or at least make a fake one, then you should be good on that, right? So police each other on this, and then don't provide sensitive information on the phone. So real quick fun story. Our really good hacker on our team, right? He did some vishing, right? So just calling people, and he basically had a fake baby MP3. He was kind of adjusting in the background. He said, "Hey, I'm homesick. I got my baby's sick as well. We're all sick, and I'm sorry." And the baby's crying, and then he's got some static in the background. He's turning up and down, and basically he said, I forgot the link. I don't have that. I just have my personal computer, so I don't have the link to the portal. I don't have my creds. Can you help me out? And basically they gave him everything. They gave him creds, and the creds actually were one of the domain admin guys. So we got domain admin just with a simple phone call, and thanks to a digital baby's help. So it was really good, right? So no need to actually to do anything crazy there. So same company. I was up in their server room and their CEO's office, and it was just bad. And all I had to do was show the front desk person that form. They gave me a contractor badge that got me into everywhere. I said, "This get me into the server room too?" "Oh yeah, not a problem." "Okay, sweet." So didn't vet anyone except for with the rendition guy. And so got up into their CEO's office, opened up their desk, or his desk rather, well, they had a password book, obviously, and that password book had their banking information, login and whatnot. And there was a checkbook, and I knew this guy made about $5 million a year, so could have cleaned him out too. So as well as the company. So that. Needless to say, that company got their money's worth with Rendition, so they were not too happy. And guys, like, I can do this. My physical pen testing, I can do it in about 3 days is the average now. It rarely runs into 4 or 5 days, and it usually happens in about 2.5, 3 days. And it costs me, if an adversary did it out of pocket, it would cost them about, I'd say, less than $40. So, it's a can of air, lockpick set. Usually don't even use those because I just get a badge, and that just costs me about 25 cents from FedEx or Kinko's or whatever it is to print off some fake documents. So it's just pretty scary, and that's why I like to spread this talk. And because again, just one of the most overlooked areas of cybersecurity, and I just want to make sure that everyone stay secure, right? Because we're all kind of stakeholders with different companies, and I just want to make sure that that all of our money and investments and everything is secure, and information is good. So questions. I'm all ears.
What does your physical security look like at your house?
Oh, at my house? I'm not gonna tell you. I literally was just like, don't give away sensitive information. No. So have you ever heard the best chef has the worst pots?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I got the basic. The locks on the doors and the timers on the lights, and that's about the best people can do nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So, little Home Alone reference, if you know where I got that. Home Alone. I'm not really going to answer that question. So, if you're looking for it,
Pick it up and put down.
I got 2 big dogs, so that helps. I'll give you that.
All right.
You might get in, you won't get out.
What's the most common thing you see across the board, like skyscraper versus small office in Charlotte or something? What's the most common thing you see? Like if a company was to do one thing, what would you recommend?
Man, that's tough. It's kind of like networks, right? It's not really a matter on like if someone gets in, it's just when, right? And I guess the difference with the physical piece is, it's not ones and zeros. It's not computers. It's not, RDP's open, so let me turn it off, and then nobody can get into RDP, right? I deal with a third. I deal with if Susan is the night shift guard and then John is the day shift guard. One day Susan is having a crappy day, and I can cheer her up, and sometimes not, and then that affects that, right? So I would say the policies are the main reason I get into the building. I mean, there's a rhyme and reason for everything I do, and my approach is very surgical. I only do one attempt to get in. I guess the deliveries are technically an attempt. If they let me up, it's great, but I don't consider that as like a win in my book. I have to go in and actually like completely own their building. So I would say policies are the biggest thing where with the visitors. I guess just for another one is the sensors, the rec sensors, motion sensors. So those are usually improperly configured, where they're just really close to the door. And then you have this big slot, this big space in your door, and then you can just trigger it from the outside. Just a bunch of things like that. Space underneath the door. If you got the doorknob, that can be bypassed really easily. So either turn that doorknob sideways or have some type of plate. That you guys ever been in hotels where they have like a little plastic piece or a plate behind or beside that doorknob where you pull it down? If you've seen that in hotels, it's because of guys like me, where you can stick something up underneath the door and then pull it from the outside and then open that hotel room door. And then, key boxes. I think that's the last one is key boxes. Usually there's a big old box full of keys that give people access to everything. And that box usually has the key in it. So it just makes no sense to me. So that's the one thing that I'm mostly saying.
One thing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, even after all this red tape that you're saying that you still was able to get access to every single one of these offices. So it doesn't sound like none of this stuff is foolproof. I mean, if somebody wants in, they're getting in regardless.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So I had one client where they were like, "Hey, we want you to get in with any means necessary," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like we think we are top notch, like physically secure. And I'm like, so like I could like C4 against your exterior walls, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. And I was like, hang on for a second, right? So I mean, if someone wants to get in, they're going to get in, right? I do it non-maliciously, right? I mean, but you've seen video games where these guys, I don't want to get into that, but like, if someone wants to get in, they're going to get in. So it's just a matter on, it's the exact same thing as networks, right? So we, as an information security consultant, when someone's like, hey, Brice, how do I secure my network? Well, it's not, let's build this big wall on the exterior of this network. It doesn't matter how wide, thick, tall that wall is. Somebody's going to either go under it, go over it, go around it, or go through it. I mean, eventually, right? So it's the exact same thing with physical. We just need to know, we need to expect someone's going to get in. We need to know when they actually get in and where they're getting in at, right? So you got to have that monitoring in place in your interior network, or just in your network. And so I know, okay, they started on this endpoint, and then they laterally move to this server or whatever it is. If we have good monitoring in place, we would know that. So it's the exact same thing with physical, right? So you can have sensors on the door that, hey, for all my coders, if this badge didn't ding and open, and then the sensor gets open, we need to alert front desk security to go up there immediately, or call the cops, or whatever it is, right? So you can do things like that to basically set yourself up. So we have to think it's not if the adversary is getting in, it's just a matter of when. So, and how quickly we can track them.
This is more of a statistical question, and I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to it, but physical penetration testing is a little more of a niche job. Do you know how many people roughly in South Carolina do it professionally or even nationally? There's a couple like big names that do the Black Hat conferences and all that stuff, and they do all that. I think that, I'm sure a couple, right? And it's also like, are they actually, it's like hackers, right? Are they actually good at hacking? Are they actually pen testers? Or are they just throwing a Nessus report out? I don't know. I also had another great question. Statistically, it's like, well, how many actual physical, or how many cyber breaches happen because of physical security? And that's one I'm still looking into. So I don't know. I'm hoping, right, that these talks kind of get bigger, and then more physical people can start connecting with me, and just bounce ideas off each other and whatnot. It's a great question, and I guess shoot me your email, and I'll definitely see if I can get you an answer. Where does your workforce come from?
Where does my workforce come from?
Yeah, you said you have a team, or at least a lady that works with you.
Yeah, so that's great question, because I think I forgot to mention it. So we're hiring, so we're hiring our offensive guys, so our hackers. We also do the digital forensics incident response piece. That's kind of where I have an expertise in as well, and we're hiring those guys. For sure. We have capture the flags as like part of our hiring process. So if you're interested in that, or if you just want to do that, go ahead and knock it out. And there's a scoreboard and everything. And it's kind of one of those, like, it feels like one of those conspiracy government, like hush hush things. Like, was it the Cicada 31 or 3301 or whatever? You do a good score on this, and then we accept you into the team, right? But yeah, a lot of us are former military, former NSA guys, did all that cool stuff, and then we definitely have our share of civilians as well. They're usually working with certain companies where they would start in their SOC as like a tier 1 analyst or whatever, and they would work their way up into like vulnerability assessment and pen testers and stuff like that. Law enforcement guys, where they used to work forensic cases and whatnot. So it's just honestly just a mixed bag. So with Rendition, if you are looking to, like, say, make a move and see what Rendition's about, I would say more often than not, we're going to hire someone that might be a little less experienced, but is just a better person overall. Your work ethic, your personality,
all that stuff really comes into play. It's not just all paper.
More specifically, like on your team, right? Does everybody on your team have a strong tech background as well, or do you source people who have more of a non-linear way of thinking, who can be agile and adapt to when they're in front of a person?
Oh, okay. So we're talking about the physical thing. Gotcha. So both, right? So I will bring someone that's really good at the technical piece, because if we've had people that are not really good at, if we've had a client where it's really difficult to break into their environment, like from the network side, and then we try the physical side. This is obviously if you're doing like a full red team assessment. Then yeah. So I'll bring a tech guy in, a keyboard guy, and then I'll be like, hey man, I'll get you into the server room, no problem. I just need you to do what you got to do once we get in there, right? And he's like, yep, not a problem. So I will train these guys pretty quick. I'll even bring inexperienced guys on our team that maybe there are, whoever it is, right? Or web developer, right? Let's say. And then, I'll bring these guys just as a kind of show them what we do and kind of train them up. Someone that's looking to make the shift laterally in our own organization. Maybe they're tier 2, tier 3 SOC analysts. And they're like, hey, Brice, I really like the physical piece. I want to do the wireless piece or whatever it is. So I'll bring those guys, right? And usually I'll just kind of vet them a little bit. I'll ask them some questions and, see if they can think on their toes and that kind of thing. And then I'll have them do some things out in public, right? Hey, go to this bar and let's go to this bar and go convince that person you're someone else and give them this backstory or whatever and see how it plays out, right? So yeah, I honestly, I'll just bring anyone, as long as you can really talk to people. I mean, that's one of the things that you'll see in cybersecurity is these people that are they're just head into the keyboard and they just really don't know how to talk to people. Those are really the only people that I can't obviously bring with me. So, but maybe we can start bridging that gap. So great question.
Do you ever take any kind of like hidden camera or anything like that to kind of completely prove what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So you usually come with prior approval, right? Because some companies, they don't want us taking pictures and videos, but usually they say, yeah, good to go, for the report and whatnot. But yeah, I'll obviously take my phone for pictures. So instead of me actually stealing data, or we'll have a camera with us or our phones or whatever it is, and we'll take pictures. Hey, this is what I could have stolen. This is what I could have stolen. This is what I had access to. This computer was unlocked. And then I'll also have a pen camera. It's somewhere. A camera with a little pen, a pen with a little camera, and that'll record the whole conversation between front desk security and me going into the floors, and it's great, especially for my report afterwards, where I'm saying, I'm saying a little note to myself on the 10th floor, and Bob gave me access to this this server room, and whatever it is. So.
How many security guards you got fired, man?
Great question. So we do have our clients that do like to headhunt on that. The thing I have to kind of tell them is it doesn't matter which security guard was actually on staff at the time, right? Because they're like, well, who is it? We need to know. And it's like, well, what we need to do is we need to step back and look at your policies that you developed, right? Or didn't develop, right? Because they're just following policies. It wouldn't matter who was actually sitting there, whether it's John, Susan, whoever. I'm still going to get in because that's my approach, right? I do all these things that I talked about that you guys saw, obviously, where I go about surgically and get this approach where I say, I know they don't have a policy for this. I know this will work. Because I did that flower delivery or whatever it is. And now for sure they're going to let me in. So it wouldn't matter who it was, right? So people do try to do that, and I just kind of nip that because that would really stink, right? That's it.
So I know you can't talk about specifics with your federal work,
Mm-hmm.
but did you start out basically on the keyboard and then venture into this after you got out, or how did you come about to focus on this domain of the security world?
Yeah, great question. So I guess to talk around it, right? So I basically joined up where it was a more technical on keyboard. Let's teach you how to do this crazy stuff, right? And then so it was more technical stuff, and then it was pretty much like, but at that time I like to work out and all this stuff. And then they were like, well, hey, we got this path where you can take where you can be really good at the technical piece, or we'll teach you the tactical side, right? And teach you how to shoot guns and all this other crazy stuff. And then you can kind of do both, right? So that's the kind of side I went and learned some really cool stuff. Deployed and did all that cool stuff. And apparently it translates really well in the civilian world where they're like, oh, you can break into buildings and talk to people and lie to people and, have a cover and all this stuff. So, oh, and computer's pretty good. All right, yeah, let's make you a physical pen tester, and let's make you, because I'm also a wireless exploitation SME. I also learned while I was in the military, I learned the digital forensics and incident response stuff, malware reverse engineering. So I just kind of have a lot under my belt, honestly. That fortunately that I learned when I was in the government, and just translated nicely, and here I am. So. Nobody's gonna ask the question, what happens if you get caught?
We assume you've never gotten caught.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, you're absolutely right. I haven't gotten caught. So I don't know what I actually do, but no. I do get the question, right? Well, Brice, we know you haven't been caught, but what happens if you do, right? So we have this agreement, right, between us and the client, and it's basically this little piece of paper that it's not waterproof, and if I lose, it's not going to be good. But yeah, it's basically signed off by their leadership and our leadership, and it says, Brice is going to do all kinds of things to physically break in. He might break your locks. He might present some fake documents. He might lie to you about who he actually is, present a false identification or whatever it is. And if he is presenting you this letter, understand that he was paid to do this, and call us if whatever. So it's really hard to convince someone that that's a legitimate number when you just told them that it's a fake number, I would assume, on another piece of paper. So yeah. So that being said, I've pretty much I have a policy that I say I'm only going to present that to law enforcement or before someone calls law enforcement, when there's really no way of talking myself out of it, because that's about the time when I'll say, okay, like end of exercise, end of scenario, you guys did really good, because I have technically gotten caught, if you will, and it was on this with this client. I was up in the floors where I shouldn't have been, and yeah, so I was standing by this door, and this door pops open. It's like 11:30 at night, and this door pops open. So I dive into this office because we weren't supposed to be there, right, based on our cover, and dive into this office, and then I'm hiding behind this chair. It's the only thing in the room that I could hide behind quick enough, right? And I'm like, this chair is like this big, and I'm huge. And so yeah, so they're like, so this person comes around, it's like, hello, and I'm like, hi, right? And like, clearly she sees me, and it's the cleaning lady, right? And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, gotcha. And then she thought I was playing hide and go seek with her. Like, she thought I was playing a prank with her. So it worked out good, because like, basically she was like, okay, well, have a good night. I'm just gonna clean. Let me know if you need anything. I'm like, yeah, sounds good, And and my office could use some cleaning, but yeah. And then I just kept going. So by the end of the night, I said, hey, have a good night. A couple hours later to her, and didn't get reported on or anything like that. So you can also carry a fake get out of jail free card, and because if I'm not presenting the real one, then I can present the fake one if someone catches me, and I can say, oh, we're actually a information security company called, not Rendition, but Rogers Information Security Company, right?
and here's who gave me permission, and here's a number that calls back to Rendition, Rogers or whatever. And then yeah, if they'd let me go then, and I'm like, oh hey, good job. Let's I'm gonna make sure you get a raise, but let's go to the server room. I want to make sure that your boss gets his money's worth. So let's check out that server room. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's go. So yeah, so if I don't actually present the real letter, then I'm in good shape. So. Any other questions?
I was just going to comment a couple things on that. One is if you're a cleaning lady who's getting paid minimum wage as your last defense of security, there's a problem there.
True that. True that.
But also using. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, usually at night, I like to choose at night because who's the front desk security guard? Who actually wants to take the graveyard shift? It's usually your college student, someone young, new on the job. They usually get the crappy shift, right? So it's great because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to call anyone, or they just want to just kind of move things along and have a quiet night, as opposed to at the daytime. It's usually your most experienced guy, your head of security, and he's usually on high alert. So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the other thing was kind of that social engineering aspect of providing a fake piece of paper, because you absolutely see in phishing campaigns how the boss asks for you to go do something, and people jump at it because it's far enough up the chain of command that they're not going to question it.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I try to. Well, obviously, there's certain people in the know with the organization that know what we're doing, but most of them don't. It's usually like 3 or 4 people. So I have to pick and choose who I actually want to put on there, because if the CEO is not supposed to know, or whoever it is, and then I put the CEO's name on there, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to have some clout. And then they end up having the actual number for the CEO, maybe, and they call them at 2 a.m. It's just not going to go over well for anyone. So yeah, so I got to kind of pick and choose there, but you're absolutely right.
So getting into something like this, obviously on the civilian sector, we're not going to be kicking in doors or doing whatever, but outside what you had mentioned earlier for like improv acting classes and obviously like block picking and stuff like that, what else would you recommend to someone wanting to get into a job like yours?
It's a good question. Honestly, I think the best way to go about it is just like OJT. If your organization doesn't have a physical security program, obviously you can hire us and we'll train you. We have a class on it. But if you're security guy and you want to improve the security of your company, talk internally and be like, hey, I want to walk around, see if I see anything. And you can just start small, is this door loose? Start learning your lock picking, like you said, be able to talk to people for that social engineering part. And that's honestly the biggest one. Like all that cool stuff of breaking in and C4 and kicking in doors. I mean, it just doesn't happen, because all I do is just convince the front desk person to just give me a badge. And then at that, it's just like you're walking in at night into your own building. So, and it's just that maybe lock picking a file cabinet here or there. So it's a shame that it's that easy, but it is. So yeah, I mean, OJT, there's a bunch of talks on physical security. Deviant, Olam, I don't know if you guys heard of him. He's a pretty big name when it comes to physical. He has great talks up there and talks a lot about the really cool stuff. And whenever you just kind of absorb all that and start looking around in buildings, and then all of a sudden you're going out to dinner with your wife and you're casing buildings and you're like, I can bet you I can break in there. And then it gets weird. And, if you really want that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's it. It's just
just OJT, because I mean it's hard to just go up to a company randomly and be like, hey, I want to practice breaking into your building. But on your own company would be fine, and you could. I mean, obviously this is all illegal, but I mean you could do some of the passive stuff, right? So like I was talking about with the reconnaissance phase, you can start looking around who comes in at night in certain in a building, and do they have their badge, and just kind of sit back and looking at all these things and being like, okay, how would I actually go about this? So
this question might come with a little bit of bias, but how much do you feel like physical security is kind of a missed opportunity in a security team?
I mean, not even a bias, right? Because I do it, but I think we would just agree internally, like our whole red team, our whole offensive team rather, in Rendition would agree that it's just that, I mean, their wireless is going to be locked down. Their network's going to be locked down. Access controls and ports are going to be shut down, all this stuff. And then, like I was saying earlier, their server room's unlocked, or they left this computer on that can process millions of dollars. They left it unlocked because once you're in that safe space of the building, of the office, people just don't think about these things that, oh, who cares if I don't lock my office? It's just people coming in, that are supposed to be here. So yeah, I mean, it's, did that answer the question?
Yeah. It
Okay.
sounds like you're saying it's a pretty big hole.
It is, yeah. It's unfortunate. And I want to say it looks, a lot of times I'll go up to buildings and they'll look more intimidating than what they actually are. They'll have roving security guards, and they will have, this is federal banks that broke into, right? So, I mean, they have chain link fences everywhere and barbed wire or whatever it is. And all I had to do was convince one person to give me a badge. And then the roving security guy's like, oh yeah, you're so-and-so. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, don't forget to turn off the lights, right? So it's definitely, I would say, pretty big when it comes to organizations. I mean, like I said earlier, I've had organizations that say we're airtight on the network side, we're airtight on the physical side, and we got both. I mean, mind you, this was a company that we did last year, right? We broke in physically and through their network last year. We told them everything that we did, and here's how you fix everything, and oh, by the ways kind of thing. And then they go, okay, we're good to go. Come back next year, and same thing, and actually worse the second time. So that was really hard to tell their leadership. It's like, hey, we actually did better. Like, we did better. You guys did worse this year. So, yeah.
Okay. Anybody's got any questions?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Brice.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate having me and the opportunity and whatnot. So yeah, so hit me up if you have any more questions on LinkedIn or Twitter or the Rendition side or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer them. So,
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Y'all. Yes.
Have a good one.
For the night.
Yeah, we made it.
I think there might be a sandwich or two left in the back. Some chips and vegetables, so feel free to grab whatever you wish to grab. No road sodas, obviously. There might be a soda or two left back there. So. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Corey. Yes, sir.
Yeah.